Yeah, so yesterday we took a walk, because I just had so much energy and I wanted to try to sort through what it was that God was trying to tell me. And today I'm a little bit tired, just not quite as bouncy as yesterday, but boy, in a great place. Peaceful, resting, just kind of taking it easy. And so I came outside to let the sunshine warm me a little bit and just chew on and ponder on some more this whole Matthew character and the way he wrote things. And so yesterday after I got in from my walk, I read through the first, I think it's 17 verses in Matthew chapter 1, and it was the genealogy of Christ. And all these different scholars say that there's another genealogy. I think it's in Luke, and the one Matthew did is emphasizing his royalty, his kingship, the fact that he descended from first Abraham, and then Abraham came later on down the line. He produced David, and David was the first king, and that Jesus is part of that royal lineage of Israel. He is a direct descendant of David. So anyway, and the older King James versions do all the begat stuff, and it's pretty tedious just because we're not comfortable with those words. That was the words of the time when the King James version was translated, but we don't use the word begat. We might say big cat, like the one coming up to say hello. Well, hi, kitty. Hi. You never know what surprises God's going to bring your way. And my kitty was just one of them. So, back to Matthew. And I got to pondering on, and I'm still pondering on, this whole lineage of Christ, the genealogy. The Jews of that time, maybe even now, I don't know. I'm not as well versed in Jewish culture as I hope to be one day. But at the time, for sure, they were big into their heritage. Who did they descend from? And it got me to thinking about, that's just inherent in humans. And we are just fascinated by the stories of our parents and our grandparents and their parents and how they met and, tracing it back. And gosh, if you get on Ancestry.com and you trace yourself back to the 300s, you can be the descendant of Peter, or you go and, some people can't go back that far, but you can go back as far as you somewhere in Europe, you were the descendant of royalty. But anyway, it just really is, it's a cool thing that we find our own identity in who we descended from. Not sure exactly why, but I know we do. So I got to thinking about, that was super important to the Jews, in the first century, and especially the ones that studied the scriptures daily, get disciplined, and, the scribes and the Pharisees, and but even the commoner, especially the guys, the men were required at age 13 to have memorized and could quote the 5 first books of the Old Testament. So they knew the lineage. They knew the promises that God had given in those first 5 books. They knew, who David was. They knew that there were prophecies that there was going to be another king, an eternal king. So Matthew starts out with this lineage, and he doesn't miss anything of importance. There's a few things that you would think he might have put in there, and it's surprising some other things that he did put in there. There are women in there, and that was definitely not emphasized in Jewish culture. But God, in his divine love and inclusion of his daughters, motivated Matthew to put in there those 4 women that were in the lineage of Christ. There's Tamar and Ruth and Bathsheba, and there's one more. Give me a minute. Maybe I'll think of it. I may have to tell you tomorrow. I may have to look it up. But anyway, there's so much included in that those simple sort of tedious verses, those first 17 verses. There's a huge message of God's incredible love for us, and that it's not our birth or our abilities that make us part of the royal family of God, that makes us just beloved in His eyes. It's who He sees us to be, who He makes us to be once we are healed. So anyway, I'm going to spend a little time and do a little research, and just see how expensive Ancestry.com is. And so, tomorrow I'll let you know what I find out. It's, but in the meantime, today I'm just going to be quiet some, walk some, listen to the chimes, watch the leaves blow in the breeze, dig in the dirt a little bit, maybe. There are just some days that you don't need to do quite as much, that you need to just be still and know that I am God.